students, we'll start with our today's lecture. So in the last lecture, the topic which was completed was a remote procedure call. So remote procedure call was a question which was asked in October 2016 paper. So you can mark this topic as important if you want. The next topic is distributed share memory. So when we are talking about sharing a memory over multiple computers, there could be a problem, and to solve those problems there are certain solutions as well, but we'll see what is distributed shared memory and how does it work. So programming for multi computers is complex. Yes, when there are, as I said prior, that when there are multiple computers working at a time, there could be a complexity, there could be a problem of sharing all the processors. So when processing is going on, as only message passing is available with multi-computers, programming becomes difficult with multi-computers. Only message passing over these processors, over machines, is somewhere a complexity topic which can be holded out. On the other hand, multiprocessor uses semaphores and monitors to access the shared data. The semaphores and what your multiprocessors both are used, that is your machines actually are used to share the data, and so programming with multiprocessors is simple. So in multiprocessors it is semaphores and machines. In multi-computer case, now in this case when we are talking about multi-computers, that is the ongoing topic of our syllabus. So multi-computers case, buffering, blocking and reliable communication needs to be done, and for that what is the actual need consider, which leads to a complex task of programming. So complexity is somewhere a problem when we talk about multi-computer. So these are the three different concepts in which multi-computers is a problem, and because of which we cannot solve it. What happens is, implementing a shared memory on multi-computer offers a virtual shared memory machine running on multi-computer. So what do they give you? A virtual shared memory for accessing the whole machine, and according to which virtual means which is actually not real. They are somewhere coping it up, or they are making an extra nuclear value for which, so that the space can be created. And so implementing the shared memory on multi-computers offers a virtual shared machine running on multi-computers. So virtual is taking out a part of it and showing it as real and then accessing it. This shared memory model can be used to write the applications on multi-computers. So this shared memory can be used as a part of applications also on multi-computers. The role of multi-computer operating system is important in this case. So here the main role is the operating system role, who is going to run those applications over a same hardware. So and for that a large virtual address space can be created. So they have created a separate virtual hardware space, so that by using virtual memory of each individual node, with this approach, a page-based distributed shared memory, that is DSM, is realized. So with this concept only, what we can do is, by showing some virtual memory of the virtual computers, we can obtain distributed shared memory process on the paging system. In DSM system, the address space is broken into pages of size 4 KB to 8 KB. Please keep this in mind. The address space in distributed shared memory is broken up into pages, and those pages start from the range 4 KB to 8 KB and kept over all the nodes in the system. So they are kept over the nodes. If a processor reference fails to an address, so if any linking of that address is not done, which is locally unavailable, a trap takes place. A trap is being done, that is, it's trapped from all the sides, it cannot get out, and the operating system fetches the page having the reference address. So what operating system will do, once there is a trap, operating system will link it with the help of an address space and starts again faulting instructions. So they will start the instructions, which now completes successfully. So after faulting the pages and removing them which are not required, then only the distributed shared memory process can be done successfully. That is, this is the condition. That is, by dividing it into pages, what we can do is we can access our 4 machines, and those pages can be referenced globally, shared virtual consisting 16 pages. So this is what is done. So shows an address space divided in 16 pages and 4 processors. So 4 processors means 4 CPU. Your CPU is central processing unit, and in operating system language they are called as processors. Here it is just like a normal paging. Your normal paging also divides the data in pages only, in paging form. So likewise it is normal paging. Here RAM of other machine is being used by backing store. So for other machine, if this machine is working, other machines RAM will be working as a backing store, so that it can use a local disk for usage if it is in the wait process. Now if for next diagram is, it's not a diagram. If processor 4 reference the instruction or data belonging to page 13 and 15, then it is done locally. So if processor 4 directly does the page referencing, it is not shared by any of the process, so it will be done locally from the page to page. It does not has to go over sharing. Why? If references to instruction and data which are in the pages placed on the other machine, then trap to the operating system will occur. So if one process is going on and we keep it in another process also, that is page, trapping process occurs. That is the reason one page at a time can be taken. So distributed shared memory can be situation after CPU 1 reference page 10 and page is moved there. So once reference page is done, 10 was here, once it is referred by some another, it will be shifted further and then others will be replaced. Next is once, so 10 is now in the replication because it is used by 2 different processors. So 10 is here in CPU, that is processor 1 as well as processor 2. This can also happen, that is replication for read only memory is used. As you do that also, that you create n number of files of one single copy, that can also be done. Next is false sharing. What is false sharing? Now basically false sharing is somewhere a concept of your distributed system only, and that false sharing occurs because of we create a false copy so that our code variables can be used. So false sharing of page containing 2 unrelatable variables. So false sharing can be done to show just that there is a page, they complete their task, but actually that page is not available. And how do we do that false sharing? We'll see it. So false sharing is done according to your distributed shared memory only. That is, reference pages will be given and they will be unrelatable shared variables and then just happen to the same page. That is, they will show as a replicated copy for some another machine, but it is actually not relatable to that processor. But still, to complete that work, we do false sharing. That is, creating a false copy is called as false sharing. Next is graph theoretic deterministic algorithm. So basically this diagram is very jumbling, but to show it, it's a very easiest one, and how it is one of the topic of load balancing. What is load balancing? To create a proper balance between your CPU process cycles, load balancing is being done. So CPU, memory, amount of communication between processes, these all things create a load, and to balance that, load balancing is done. And how do a graph theoretic deterministic algorithm work? So most of the studied algorithms consider systems having processes with known CPU. So many of those algorithms till now which we had gone through are deterministic on the basis of, many of them are like, they consider that the processes are known by the CPU and memory requirements are also known while processing, and a known matrix stating the average amount of traffic between each pair of processes. So everything is being aware to the CPU. If more number of processes exist than the number of CPUs, then many processes are need to be assigned to each CPU. So what happens if in certain cases, if processes increase, what we will do when the processes increase, and assigning to each CPU becomes very difficult. So for that, to balance this load, I'm sorry, a graph theoretic deterministic algorithm is being used. The idea is to carry out this assignment to reduce network traffic. For accessing each and everything, to reduce that traffic, what do we have? This particular algorithm. So a way graph is used to represent the system. So this graph is used to represent a system. And how is this graph developed? In this graph, vertices are processes. So these vertices which are drawn are the processes, and each edge indicating the flow of message between two processes. A cut in the graph is divided in many disjoint subgraphs subject to certain constraints. If constraints are fulfilled, then edges within subgraph indicate communication within the same machine. Edges crossing the subgraph represent network traffic. The goal is then to come across partitioning that minimizes the network traffic while fulfilling all the constraints. So what is this? So basically, these are there. These dotted lines are the subgraphs which are edges crossing the subgraph. So this is the network traffic which is being done, and in that network traffic, what is happening is there is interconnection between these processes. As you can see, many lines and vertices. So these are the processes in the circle, so indicating internal, whatever is there, see, internal lines are there that are called as the actual connection between the disjoint between the subgraph. But if there are at the edges of the subgraph, then there is a traffic. So this is basically the traffic which is there at the exact edges of my graph. The goal is to come across all these things, create partitions. This is not the traffic, this is creating partitions, so that we divide the traffic and then work accordingly. So two options for allocating 9 processes to 3 nodes. So for 3 nodes, you have properly 9 processes which can divide the work. Shows total 9 processes in system A to I. So these system has processes A to I, and that is 9 total, and edges show communication loads in Mbps. So these edges shows communication between Mbps, 5, 1, 4, 6, all that. In this part of figure, graph is partitioned with processes A, E and G on machine 1, process B, F, H on machine 2, process C, D and I on machine 3. So this is basically done, that is A, then your E and G, that is this one, 1, 2, 3 are all together on machine 1, that is node 1. Then you have B, F and H on machine 2, that is node 2. Then you have C, D and I on machine 3. So this is being divided. The total network traffic is the sum of edges intersected by cuts. So there will be, wherever there is a cut, that is intercommunication here, each and everywhere, that will be the total traffic. So cuts are shown by dashed lines or 30 units. So 3 of each machine will be computed to 30 units. And in the second part, that is this one, different partitioning show that only 28 units of network traffic. So by dividing it, somewhere nodes are being disjointed, and because of which from 30 units it comes to 28 units. Suppose all memory and CPU constraints are satisfied, it is enhanced option as it requires less communication. It's a best option if there is certain sharing of memory and CPU constraints, because of which we can solve this problem. So next is sender initiated distributed heuristic algorithm. So sender initiated distributed heuristic algorithm. So one distributed algorithm says that process should be executed on the node on which it is created, and if it is not overloaded. So prior algorithm told us that rather it's if it is not overloaded, we can divide it among the nodes and we can solve that problem. The metric for deciding overloaded and underloaded might be too many or less processes, too big or small working set size, or any other. So there can be certain variations, and to solve those variations, if it really overloaded as per the said matrix, then it selects another node at random to ask the load as per set matrix. If it is asked node load is less, then some threshold value, that is after threshing, that is by removing some values, a new process is transferred there. So what happens is, if they have said if the node load is less, then some values are thresholded. See, here have a process, I have nothing to do. So once you get that an overloaded node looking like for a lightly loaded node to hand off processes, an empty node looking for work to do. So what is there? A sender initiated that once I am loaded, I need some extra machine to share over my load, and if my machine is empty, what it will ask? It will ask for the reason so that I could get some work to do. And for such processes, what we can do is we can share those values so that heavily loaded nodes try to get rid of surplus work, which depicts the sender initiated load balancing. What we can do, a machine having no work and a machine having work can be somewhere initially balanced with the help of these structures. So distributed system is working. Node configuration is done in multiprocessor by CPU. Multi-computers is done by CPU, RAM and net interface. Distributed system node configuration is done complete. Computer is doing it. Node peripherals are all shared. Then these are the variations, or we can say comparisons, for three different machines: multiprocessing, multi-computers and distributed system. So this is file system is operated one and shared. Each node has own file system, administrator, one organization, many organizations in distributed system, as there is sharing of memory. So basically distributed system is the third part in your this chapter. First was multiprocessor, second was multi-computer, and from here it is the third part of your chapter, that is distributed system. So what is basically distributed system and what are its characteristics? First I'll tell you that, then we'll move on to this diagram. So a computer network is defined as a set of communicating devices. So a computer network is designed in such a way that we communicate with each other using such devices so that we can link together. And these devices include computers, printers and another devices capable of sending or receiving information. So whichever device which is able to share data, that is send and either receive from other devices on the network, these devices often called as a node in the network. So these devices will be called as a node. So computer network is interconnected set of autonomous computers. So autonomous means they have their own single configuration and they will be communicated over a network. So what is basically a distributed system? A distributed system is defined as a set of autonomous computers. So these will be set of autonomous computers that appears to its users as a single coherent system. So there will be single autonomous system working on their own, but they will be somewhere interconnected, and while working on a distributed system, these all systems will look as single one, as a coherent system, that is as a whole system working together in a single space. So user of distributed system feel that they are working on a single system by connecting all those. A distributed system is like multi-computers spread worldwide. So distributed system is such like you have multi-computers, but they can be connected worldwide. They do not have a certain restriction of area. Each node in distributed system is having its own CPU, RAM, network board, OS, disk for paging. So everything for each and every system in distributed system will have their own configurations. That is the reason they have said autonomous. So following are the main characteristics of your distributed system. A distributed system comprises of computers with distinct architecture. So they have connected architecture. Any architecture of the system will be acceptable for connecting to a distributed system. Next is and data representation. They can have their dissimilarities, but they can be connected through the machines. The manner in which distributed systems is organized internally is also hidden from the users of the distributed system. So the manner in which distributed system is organized internally is also hidden. So that is not actually visible to the user. Then the interaction of users and applications with the distributed system is consistent. So it's identical. They can communicate with each other on a proper way in spite of where and when interaction occurs. So wherever interaction occurs, that will be in a consistent form. A distributed system should allow for scaling it. Scaling it is increasing, decreasing. They can scale their needs accordingly. Distributed system should support for availability. Availability means once my user is asking for a demand, the distributed system could help or send the data required. Failure handling should be hidden from users and applications. If there is a failure in distributed systems, that time what it should not be shown to the users or applications accessing that distributed system. So these are the main characteristics of distributed system. So this is how your distributed system look like. You have certain number of applications which are running: Pentium, Spark, Macintosh. So these are the CPUs. Different operating systems are running. Middleware is different, and they are connected to one single network, that is middleware, and because of which they are termed under distributed system. Next is, so this is basically the use, and they are actually connected. So network contains computers with different architectures. Heterogeneous architecture will be there. That is, one can have operating system Linux, they can have CPU running on Macintosh, they can have Mac OS, so Windows operating system with Pentium. So all these variations can be there, but that is not disclosed because it requires autonomous system to be run over a distributed memory. And next is network hardware Ethernet. So basically there are two variations: classic Ethernet and switched Ethernet. Classic is the normal one, and switched Ethernet is the newest, what we can say, the updated one. So as distributed systems are built on top of computer networks, so on these computer networks, the whole process is binded by a network. What do we require? They are of two types. So LAN, that is local area network, and WANs, that is wide area network, that is globally. Local area network means through a building in an area, that is LAN. Or when you say wide area network, it is globally. You can go in another country, you can access it. So LAN covers one room, building or campus. WAN covers city, country or whole world. So Ethernet is an example of LAN. So Ethernet, when we are talking, is an example of LAN, that is LAN connection is called as a Ethernet connection. Internet is collection of 1,000 separate networks. So when you are connected to internet nowadays, everybody uses internet, and you know that separate different networks are connected together and we can considered as WAN. So Ethernet is an example of LAN and internet is a example of WAN, that is WAN, wide area network. So Ethernet is basically a coaxial cable connection which is being done for your normal communication in a certain specific zone or an area. And when you talk about switched Ethernet, it comes under the WAN network, that is you have an Ethernet, you have computer switch, and where multiple copies of people are being connected over that Ethernet, that is the second one, switched Ethernet. Next is internet, and internet has host routers, host PCs, then your router which has been communicating for incoming and outgoing lines, it is accepting packets and sending those packets. Then you have internet service providers. Many telephone companies are providing you that ISP stands for internet service providers, for their customers to get globally connected. Internet is organized with backbones at the top and operated at the backbone operator. So basically your internet works like this. Somewhere your internet connection is like this, that is you have a regional network, you have local routers and hosts, you have backbone, that is high width bandwidth fiber which is going to communicate, and then you have router ISP. So portion of internet, how it is working. So medium bandwidth fiber, then regional network, your normal network, home PC is connected. So your internet can be connected to a multiple variable values, that is your home network, system, organizations, everywhere. Next is the network services. So with this network services, the last topic will conclude for this lecture. So network services, different there are two types of services: connection oriented services and connection less services. So connection oriented means network service user initially establishes a connection, uses the connection and then releases over this. The sender sends bit at one end and receiver takes them out in the same order or at the other end. On the contrary, with connection less service, packets follows the different routes to reach the same destination. So packets may arrive in out of order at destination, which is impossible with the connection oriented service. So there are two types in network services: connection oriented and connectionless. So when we are talking about connection oriented, means what? If there are two people, when a connection is being built, that is sender and the receiver. In connection oriented, sender will send first a request. For that they will use a username and password for connection. Once they get the connected to the connection, then they will access the connection, and once their task is done, they will release the connection. That is your normal Wi-Fi example, that is connection oriented. If that Wi-Fi is free for all, that is anybody can access it, that time just you click on the connection and it will get open to all. You do not have to set a separate password for your connection. That time it is connectionless. But what happens, so there should be some pros and cons when we are talking about connection and connectionless. So when there is a connection proper for your a network service, what can happen is connection oriented sends the data in a proper order how the sender has sent, and then receiver will also get that same data after receiving at the receiver end in the same order. But in connectionless, as the connection is not oriented, not verified, the data which is being sent will be not in the order, and receiver receiving it will also not get in the same order. So these are the two different cases in network service. So connection oriented is reliable message stream, sequence of pages of a book. Like example we can say is a page of pages of book, send in the page with the page numbers. Reliable bit stream, that is remote login, username and password is being provided. Unreliable connection, digitized voice. So unreliable connections will not be taken here. Connectionless is opposite to it. Unreliable datagram, network text package. It will be directly without any flow. Acknowledged datagram, registered mail. So if they are registered somewhere, they will be connectionless. Request reply, database query. So these are with the help of database query, they will get entered in the companies or organizations database. So these are the six different types of network service which are there, which are divided in two, that is connection oriented and connectionless. With this we'll stop here for this lecture, and I'll be providing assignment also of some topics which are remaining. Please write those topics and submit the assignments. I'll give you time to submit those assignments as well. And I had promised in the last lecture that I will send you remote procedure call and blocking versus non-blocking calls. That is just for your reference. You can download those images and keep. You do not have to write assignments for it. Thank you.